If you have a little notebook, take some notes, because let me tell you how I've messed up in my garden. And maybe that should be the title of this video, is let me explain how I've messed up. Hi guys. Oh, hello, handsome. Come on here. Let's get out of this now. What's going on, friends? Welcome back to the Honeystead. If you're new here, my name is Kaylee, and behind me is a whole bunch of plants that look kind of like they're unalived. Some of them are, not gonna lie, but some of them are gonna come back. And that is the thing that I'm kind of excited about. I've got so many plans for this garden space, between this space and this space, which I will show you, which I wasn't quite prepared to tackle this year, but it doesn't look like much now. But I can guarantee that in a few months, this is going to look completely different. And I'm actually really excited to start doing some things. We have got a lot of projects ahead of us this year, and I think this is going to be one that we are going to tackle. Between this space here, which is my in-ground garden, I have plans for this. I'm still drawing them out. I'm still trying to figure it out. Still trying to come up with a good idea on what I want to do. But our goal this year is to grow an abundance of medicinal herbs along with an abundance of food. And my family and I have a lot of plans this year, and we are just going to sit down and start talking about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and when we're going to do it. I'm going to show you the one side of the garden that I think is going to be the primary focus. And this one might hurt just a little bit. My passion flower fortress does not look as beautiful as it did this summer, but that's okay, because all of this is going to come back actually. And well, I think this garden space is really gonna have some changes here in the near future. My husband and I were sitting down and we were kind of talking about what the plan is for this 2025 garden, and I'm actually really excited to kind of see it, although I'm a little sad because this is going to change. We milled all of these raised beds from wood on our property, and my dad, my husband, and my son, we all built them and put them here in this garden. My daughter and my mom and I came and started planting, but there were some things that we did wrong in our garden, and I have been battling the things for this entire time. One of the things that we did when we placed these garden beds is we didn't quite think about the maintenance in between. And with everything that we have going on here on our homestead, along with in our lives, you know, our main goal is how can we make our tasks a little easier? Like, what can we do to make things easier? And I felt like we've done a really good job, especially with our livestock. I felt like we've done a good job with, you know, having a space for the herbs and just, you know, what we've done. But I realized that I've actually made a bigger mess here in this garden, and I've created a lot more work. And so I think that's the goal this year. How can we redo our garden, redo our raised beds, to make it a lot easier? So couple of things, and might be really helpful for those if you guys are planning to do raised beds. One, I love raised beds. I think that they're a lot easier for me to handle, but I think this, just if you have a little notebook, take some notes, because let me tell you how I've messed up in my garden. So I've messed up in my garden by not thinking about the maintenance aspect of how am I going to maintain this garden space. So when we placed our raised beds, we didn't factor in the width of the raised beds and our lawnmower. I did get a push mower that has helped a little bit on maintaining the walkway with the grass. That right there, I would say, is number one. When you're placing your raised beds, think about the maintenance and what you're going to do to maintain the in-between. So, my goal is I'm actually not going to have grass in between. And this is a goal. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. It might happen this year. It might. What ends up happening, like with my husband, is like we talk about something and then all of a sudden he just like goes and gets started on it, and I come out and I look and I'm just like, wow, you've already started. So if he gets inspired to come out here and start doing this, I'll share with you guys. But my goal this year is to actually not have grass in this garden space. I really think that I would like to completely redo it and put down a barrier and possibly put down some gravel or something to kind of maintain my walkway, maintain the space. Gravel is probably going to be like garden gravel is probably going to be what we're going to do. And so again, this is just like me treasure mapping, me dreaming. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it might. Chances are we've already talked about it, so it's probably going to happen. The second thing that I found with our raised beds, I love them. They're made out of cedar. Again, we milled them ourselves, but when we filled our raised beds, we filled it with dirt around our property from projects that we were digging, and we had all this extra dirt, and I realized that upon filling all of our raised beds, I also am growing a lot of this type of grass, which is I don't know the actual name of it, but I'll show you. It is the worst grass when it comes to trying to maintain. So essentially my raised beds are growing grass. And because I don't use pesticides and I don't use herbicides, I've kind of just accepted it. But it is getting to the point where it's choking out all of my plants. And I'm spending so much time in here trying to fix this problem. So number 2, make sure that when you're filling your raised beds, if you are using raised beds, just to kind of be mindful of the source of soil that you're putting in, because this has definitely been a constant battle, and one that I'm like, I feel like we could have done better. The third thing I feel like we should have done a little differently when we were planning out our garden is I should have thought a little bit better about our irrigation system and how we were going to get the water to certain spots. Now, we initially started our garden in this space. It has worked well. I'm coming out here and I'm hand watering it on a daily basis, especially during the high temperatures and the heat of the summer. But going down to the larger portion of the garden where it's in ground, I just feel like we could have probably planned it a little bit better. And at the time, we didn't really have the tools and the equipment to be able to run an irrigation line to actually, put something in ground. And now we do. And so, between talking with my husband and talking with my dad, I was like, why don't we, maybe it's time. So as hard as this is going to be to possibly completely demo my entire garden and raise beds, which I might be able to salvage. I think we're going to try to salvage them. I'm like really hopeful. So I'll let you know there. We are going to try. But I think for me to be able to maintain this space and also do all the other things that I'm doing, it just might be better to do a complete and total brand new start, a clean sweep. Let's start with a blank canvas and then build from there. So I'm not disappointed. I am excited. I'm a little sad. But on the other hand, these are things that I've learned over the years, and things that I just, it just, how are you going to learn unless you do? And so that is what we have kind of figured out. Now, I will be saving a lot of my plants, a lot of the perennials that I have in here. I've got so much comfrey. I've got an abundance of passion flower. I mean, I really have well-established root systems that I plan on transplanting. And I'm thinking I'm going to try at some point, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to do this fairly soon, and then store the roots in the high tunnel where we can then transplant back. Because a lot of these plants, like my schizandra, they have some meaning behind them. And it's not really necessarily the meaning of the plant. It's more like their original source. And it's something that I love to do. So when I have workshops here, people leave with my plants, and that's because that, to me, I don't know, there's something special about giving somebody something from your garden, and that they can then enjoy from their garden, and in hopes that they continue to share and educate. But we definitely have some work. Maisie. The other thing that we're planning on doing at some point, where I know at some point we're going to completely renovate our high tunnel too. That's another thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like we've put so much work into this area just to start it over again, but it's okay. We bought our high tunnel secondhand. I think it was about $1,000 secondhand, and it has the fans and the fence. And it's been a great little high tunnel, but I have realized that it is really hard to get in there and harvest because of the doorway. And I'm now revisiting this idea of, okay, well, if I were to do it, how would I do it? And I'd probably get a bigger high tunnel, something a little bit taller, something that has, a bigger doorway, something that I can drive something in here with a little trailer and unload. It's not that it's a bad high tunnel, it's just that we know it was older. The covering that's over it right now will need to be changed. It is definitely has exceeded its time. So, these are just things that we're starting to have conversations about. But this year is definitely going to be a really busy year, and I'm kind of excited to see what comes of it. So I know my husband and I are going to sit down. We're finishing up a project in the barn shop here in the next couple of weeks. And then after that, we are probably going to go full force on this space. I am doing some research, and I'm looking at different types of raised beds. Some that are made from aluminum versus wood, because that was another conversation. Do we build wood ones again, or do we not? And so we're still kind of looking at that, and I am definitely considering salvaging all of these raised beds that we've already built, and then just essentially picking them up, running the skid steer completely through here to level it out, running our water lines, and then fixing up the raised beds, putting them back, and then getting in proper soil for these raised beds. So that is definitely an option, and I actually really love that option, but we will see. There's a lot of things in the works, and I'm just really excited to take you guys along with me. I mean, you guys have been so much of a part of this whole journey, between starting this garden, between having our bees here. Now we have successfully moved our bees over to their new bee yard, which they all seem pretty happy. We have more space to be able to grow more bees, and we're even talking about setting up another bee yard down the road so that we can add more. But for right now, this is where we're at, and this is what I've got to, all the things that I have to consider. But I think it is time. I think it's time that this space, we create this space to for us to be able to work a little bit smarter and not as hard. Not as hard, because I've got plenty of hard things that I'm doing in my life. But I do love this space, and I'm ready. I'm just ready. I'm ready. I'm starting to get my list together of all the medicinal seeds. I will continue to grow the majority of them that I have shared in the past. In the description of this video, I'll put a whole list of all the medicinal seeds that I grow, the medicinal herbs that I grow here. I like to focus on a new herb every single year and something that I really want to grow more of. And I honestly can't say that there's one particular herb because, you know me, I can't just pick one. They're all my favorite. But I think two that I plan on doing a little bit different this year is definitely eucalyptus. I am very surprised that eucalyptus grows as well as it does here. It is outside, it's still alive. I have not unalived it, so I'm very much going to grow more eucalyptus. The other plant that I want to focus on this year is ashwagandha. Now I've grown it now for, I think this is my 3rd year growing it as an annual. In our grow zone, ashwagandha can only really grow as an annual unless I bring it indoors. I attempted to grow it in our high tunnel. However, I unalived it because it got too hot, and I also accidentally did not water it the way it should have been watered. And I've also grown it in ground and only harvested the leaves and the berries, but I really want to harvest the root. And I have definitely learned that growing it in ground is challenging, especially when I'm trying to harvest that root. So I'm debating on actually growing it in raised beds, treating it as an annual, growing it, and then before the frost, you know, harvest the whole plant and the root, and then take that root and then dry it. If I'm growing it in ground, it is so hard for me to dig up that root. So there are definitely some things that I'm working on, and it's all work in progress. You know, I have goals and visions on how I would love to see this garden, especially the in-ground garden. But that's what's exciting about this and life, is that, you know, it's always something to kind of aim for. And as I sit down and start drawing out the plans for this space, I'm going to share them with you guys. But I'm also open to hearing what you guys have experienced with your garden space, little tips that you guys have learned. I've got a whole list of notes that I'm like, this is what I need to do different. This is how I need to change this. This might be better here. So yeah, it is a work in progress and perfectly imperfect, and I'm okay with it. But my feet are freezing. I'm standing on snow. I'm looking at my unalived garden, and something has happened inside of me, and it is getting me excited to be able to start planning. So I'm gonna go head up in the barn shop, grab my notebook, start making notes. But yeah, thank you guys for coming along with me and seeing this perfectly imperfect space. But as always, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and learn something old. Bye guys.